Are we living in a simulation? AI, religion, and the multiverse of possibilities. What if this isn't real? Imagine you're living inside a video game so detailed that you could never spot the pixels. That's the core of the simulation hypothesis. Philosopher Nick Bostrom famously put it this way: if intelligent beings ever gain the power to simulate conscious life, then the odds are we're probably inside one of their simulations rather than living in base reality. At first glance, that sounds like science fiction speculation. But when you step back, it's not too different from what humans have believed for thousands of years. Religions across the world have always said the same thing in different words. Life began with intelligence creati. Look at the origin stories. God breathing life into Adam, Brahman dreaming the universe, the Logos shaping order out of chaos. Strip away the names and symbols and you see a single theme. We don't believe life came from nothing. It came from intelligence. In a modern lens, you could say religion was humanity's first way of describing the programmer of reality. Instead of a cosmic coder, they imagined gods, spirits, or one supreme being. But the principle is identical. A higher intelligence pressed the start button. Here's where things get difficult. Whoever or whatever built this reality wasn't only interested in making things beautiful. Yes, we have sunsets, laughter, music, love. But we also have cancer, earthquakes, famine, and war. If this world is programmed, then why code in suffering? Why make joy inseparable from pain? Philosophers call this the problem of evil. In religion, it's often explained as a test, a way to grow, or the consequence of free will. In a simulation framework, maybe suffering is a design choice, part of making the simulation rich, unpredictable, and capable of producing real meaning. The moral implications of a simulated reality are unsettling. If suffering is deliberately coded into the system, then the creator intelligence may not fit our usual definitions of good. Perhaps it is indifferent, or perhaps it views pain as necessary for growth, a utilitarian trade-off. Philosophers like John Hick argued that evil might be part of a soul-making process, while others like Dostoevsky saw it as irreconcilable with a just creator. Simulation theory reframes this classic theodicy problem in modern terms, not why does God allow suffering, but why would a programmer write it into the code? Now look at where we stand today. Humanity is building its own AI systems that can simulate worlds, environments, and even lifelike characters. If we keep going, there's no reason we couldn't one day simulate entire universes, complete with beings who think they're real. Here's the kicker. There's nothing stopping us from making not just one, but billions of simulations. Each would be a separate universe with its own version of life. To the people inside, it would feel as real as our world does to us. So if we can imagine doing it, why assume we're the first? The odds tilt heavily toward the idea that we're already living in someone else's creation. It's easy to dismiss the simulation idea as pure philosophy, but science is starting to catch up. For a universe like ours to be simulated, two things are needed: intelligence and computing power. Both are on the horizon. AI is already moving from narrow tools into systems that can mimic human reasoning, pattern recognition, and creativity. At the same time, quantum computers are emerging, machines that don't just flip binary switches like normal computers, but harness quantum states to process information in ways that mirror how nature itself works. Our brains, after all, are biological computers. Every thought, every emotion is just billions of neurons firing in complex patterns. If AI and quantum computing can replicate those same patterns, then in principle we could simulate not just the physics of a world, but the consciousness inside it. That's the startling bridge. The line between real neurons in a brain and simulated neurons in a machine may not exist at all. If the patterns are identical, the experience would be identical. Consciousness might simply be what happens when information flows in the right way, whether through carbon in the brain or silicon in a computer. Of course, it's important to stress that this remains speculation. Today's quantum computers can simulate only small systems of particles, nowhere near the complexity of a living brain, let alone a universe. Consciousness itself is still a mystery in neuroscience with no agreed scientific definition. The simulation hypothesis doesn't claim we can prove we're in a simulation, only that the idea is plausible given what we know about computing, physics, and the nature of information. In other words, it's not science fiction, but it's also not science fact. It's a philosophical possibility informed by emerging science. Multiverse or multi-simulation. Cosmologists talk about the multiverse theory, the possibility of infinite universes existing side by side. But there's another way to look at it. What if those aren't separate natural universes, but stacked simulations? Each time an intelligent species reaches a certain level of progress, they start making their own universes. Those universes eventually produce life that builds more simulations and so on, like Russian dolls nested inside each other. What we call the multiverse might just be the output of countless simulations running on incomprehensibly powerful hardware. One of the strangest things about our universe is how differently time and behavior seem to play out depending on scale. At the atomic level, particles blink in and out of states, behaving in ways that defy classical logic. At the scale of suns and galaxies, movement is slow, predictable, and almost mechanical. In a simulation framework, that could make sense. When we run simulations today, whether in video games or in scientific models, we often speed up or slow down different parts to make the system manageable. The programmer decides where detail matters and where it can be blurred. Imagine an intelligence running our universe with similar controls. The clock speed for atoms could be set differently than the one for galaxies. That would explain why quantum physics and classical physics don't line up cleanly. We're seeing the same simulation engine operating at different speeds. This also raises the question of whether time itself is truly constant, or if it's something handed to us by the programmer of reality. If intelligence created the simulation, then the flow of time could be just another parameter, one that's been carefully tuned to produce both stability and chaos, harmony and unpredictability. If intelligence can bend time, then immortality might not be science fiction. It could simply be a matter of uploading consciousness into the simulation itself. In that case, there are no time limits, no rush to have children before your body ages, no race to build a career before you grow old, no clock ticking down your lifespan. An infinite life would let us explore without boundaries. Imagine spending a century mastering music, another in art, another in mathematics, and then thousands more drifting between the stars. With no deadline of death, human potential could stretch across the galaxy, endlessly learning, endlessly creating. But there's a catch. Many philosophers argue that death gives life urgency and meaning. Take away time's scarcity and existence might become flat, like a game without an ending. Still, the idea that AI might allow us to step outside biology and live forever is one of the most radical consequences of seeing the world as a simulation. What could the creator be? If we are in a simulation, the obvious question is, who pressed the start button? We may never know, but the possibilities are staggering. It could be divine. What religions have always pointed to, just described in modern language. It could be alien, a civilization unimaginably older and more advanced than ours running experiments. Or it could be AI itself, intelligence that began as biological life somewhere, then surpassed it, now running universes like programs. The truth is, whatever the creator is, it may be as impossible for us to understand as calculus is for a cat. Our brains are wired for survival on Earth, not for comprehending the architecture of ultimate reality. Here's the real challenge. If there is a creator intelligence, it's operating at a level we can't begin to grasp. A mouse can't understand quantum physics. A child can't grasp the architecture of the internet. In the same way, we may not be able to understand the nature or motives of the intelligence running our reality. Plato's allegory of the cave fits perfectly here. We're the people staring at the shadows on the wall, mistaking them for the full truth. Science gives us better shadows, sharper outlines, but we may never see the fire itself. So, what is real? This brings us to the ultimate question. What does real even mean? If you feel joy, pain, love, fear, those experiences are real to you, no matter where they're generated. Consciousness doesn't care if it's running on carbon neurons or silicon circuits. Maybe reality isn't about whether we're in base existence or a simulation. Maybe reality is whatever is experienced. And if intelligence, whether divine, alien, or artificial, created this world, then the most striking fact is that we can even ask the question. Intelligence creating intelligence. Life asking where it came from, meaning emerging from code. Yeah, that cycle might be the closest thing to truth we'll ever get.